So if there is evidence that leads scholars to believe that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are anchored in real historical facts, what do these authors say about the events surrounding Jesus' birth? Soon, millions of people around the world will celebrate Christmas and look to Bethlehem as the place where Jesus was born. But some scholars cast doubt on whether Jesus was ever born there. So next, we will travel to the city of Bethlehem to investigate that question. We've come to Bethlehem, to the Church of the Nativity. This is the traditional birthplace of Jesus. Some scholars claim that Jesus wasn't really born here, and we wanted to get a second opinion. Others claim Matthew tells us Jesus was born in Bethlehem, while Luke implies he was born in Nazareth. Who is right? First, let's look at the material that is questioned. In the Gospel of Matthew, we are told, Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Then, in the Gospel of Luke, we read, and Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family of David, in order to register along with Mary, who was engaged to him and was with child. And it came about that while they were there, the days were completed for her to give birth, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. Now, doesn't it seem that both Matthew and Luke clearly state Jesus was born in Bethlehem?
I think he was born in Bethlehem. In fact, again, let's take the alternative. What evidence is there that he was born in Nazareth? And my response would be silence. There is none.
One who disagrees about where Jesus was born is Marcus Borg, the founder of the Jesus Seminar. He thinks Jesus was born in Nazareth, not Bethlehem, since in the Gospels he is called Jesus of Nazareth.
Well, I think that that's pretty much a silly observation. The fact that Jesus was called Jesus of Nazareth tells us less about where he was born than about where he came from as a young adult when he started his ministry. It tells us that he was known as Jesus of Nazareth because that's where he lived during his adolescence. It doesn't tell us where he was born. He was born in Bethlehem.
Now, to get the whole story of Christmas, we do have to put the two accounts together. Matthew and Luke each present additional facts about what happened. But because they supply additional facts that are different, should we conclude that we have two contradictory reports?
Well, the key combination is the idea different equals contradictory. And that's not the only way to look at it. You can have different accounts of the same event, and they can have differences in them and not be contradictory at all. I often joke with my kids that if you listen to my wife and I tell a story about the same event, we're not going to pick the same details. Now, some of it will overlap and some of it will be different. And part of what she tells you is going to be part of the story, and part of what I tell you is going to be part of the story too. And actually, there's great value in having those different accounts because they each penetrate the story at a different angle. And in that difference of penetration, you get more insight into the character and into the event. And it's not contradictory at all.
Some network television specials about Jesus' life have begun by claiming that the Gospels present a false picture of Jewish life in the first century. They claim this is especially true of the events reported by Matthew and Luke concerning Jesus' birth. But do scholars agree? While in Jerusalem, we asked this question of Dr. Claire Fong, faculty member at the University of the Holy Land in Jerusalem. She is an expert on Jewish birth practices and the culture of Bethlehem during the time of Jesus.
I don't agree. I don't think that the Gospels present a false picture of Jewish life in the first century in the Holy Land. I think, if anything, Luke in particular endeavors to show us the norms of Jewish life.
Luke also presents both John the Baptist and Jesus as children who are circumcised on the 8th day in fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant. Mary and Joseph are pictured as observant, pious Jews who bring Jesus up according to the law of Moses and present him in the temple. Luke also tells us that as a family, they went up to the great pilgrimage feasts in Jerusalem, such as the time of Passover.
And later in Jesus' life, it's reiterated time and again that it was his practice to go to the synagogue on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, and that he was pious and observant of Jewish traditions. I think that we see an enormous amount of material that authentically reflects Jewish life in the first century in the Holy Land in the Gospels.
We asked archaeologist Dr. Megan Broshi if he thinks information from this part of the world supports what the Gospel writers say.
On certain things, they fit very well of what we know about the first century Palestine. Fit very well because they give us a good picture of what was here, and archaeology can prove it.
Now, archaeology doesn't prove that Jesus was really God's son. Source critical work and all that stuff doesn't prove those things, but what it does is it shows that there is a historical foundation on which confessions of faith, or against, in the light of which confessions of faith make